Hey, fifth grade, it's Mrs. Pritchard. I'm just going to do a quick lesson on perimeter and area, just because we haven't done that in a while. Before you do a volume lesson, because that's something we're going to be pushing out in our new math platform, iReady, later this week. So let's think about perimeter first. So, what do you think about when you hear perimeter? Okay. Yeah, I like someone said one time Miss H kind of said it has that word rim in it. So if you think of rim, that is the distance around an object. Good job. Okay, and what do we need to do to find perimeter? Yeah, we just need one dimension, length, right? So when we think about perimeter, okay, a lot of times when I say one dimension, that means all we really need to solve it is the length. Okay, because perimeter is distance around. So I'm going to put length. This is going to make more sense, but I'm just going to put kind of a 1 to show that it's one dimension. All we need is the length to find the perimeter. Okay, so if I give you a rectangle, because that's what we're going to be working on this week. Okay, and I gave you the dimensions, so it's a 5 by 4. What do we know about the sides of a rectangle? Yeah, opposite sides are congruent, which just means equal to each other, right? So if this side is 5, this is going to be 5 inches. And if this is 4, the other side is going to be 4 inches. Awesome. Now, you guys kind of know there's a lot of different formulas you can do. Really, for perimeter, if it's distance around, all we have to do is add those up. Now, how you want to chunk that is up to you. Okay. I personally, because this is mental math, 5 and 5, I could think of 5 times 2, right, is 10. So sometimes I just kind of chunk it before I do my adding. So I have a 10, and then 4 times 2 or 4 plus 4 is 8, right? So that's pretty easy math. So then I know that I have 18 inches for my perimeter. Remember, we don't have to square or cube or do anything because perimeter is one dimension. It's just inches. Okay. Now we're going to kind of use the same rectangle, but I'm going to kind of do something. So perimeter was distance around. So I'm going to kind of go back to our original one. Now I'm going to ask you, if we had that same rectangle, how would we find the area? So how is area different from perimeter? Because perimeter, we only needed one dimension, the length, to find. So what do we need to do to find area? Because remember, area is how many square units? If I were to do my little dots here, how many square units would cover kind of inside that rectangle? So what do we need to solve that? We need two dimensions. Yeah, we need our length and our width, right? So area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, and I'm going to put in parentheses a 2 because area is a 2 dimension because we need 2 dimensions to solve it. Okay, right? But it's still kind of flat. It's still 2D. So now that I have the length and I have the width, and this is just basic math, 5 times 4 is what, fifth grade? Yeah, 20. So my area would be 20, and I can do it either as inches squared. So I could put my little 2 there because it's 2 dimensions, or sometimes my kids like to say 20, and then they like to use square, and then they might say like inches. So either one, you could say inches squared, which is what I like to do, because then you just have to put that little 2. We could also say 20 square inches. Okay, and we're just dealing with rectangles today. Now, they're not always going to be whole numbers. They might throw in some fractions. Okay, but I just want you to be thinking perimeter, one dimension, length. Area, two dimensions. We need the length and width. Because later this week, I bet some of you can figure out when we do volume, how much space an object takes up. How many dimensions do you think we might need? Excellent. Volume is a 3D, 3 dimensions. Very good. Okay, so we'll be doing that later this week. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, this happens sometimes with my kids with area. So we just went over length times width, but what if you get a rectangle like this? Okay, and they give you the area. So I'm going to kind of put inside what your area is. Then I'm going to give you one of your other dimensions. And this is going to be a fraction, so this is going to be a little bit harder. Okay. So now we're still trying to find area. Well, actually, we did find the area. They told us that it's 7 yards squared. And we have the width, so I'm going to put W there. So we're trying to find the length. Okay, so what do you think we do if our normal formula is area equals length times width? Well, if we have the area, we have our 7. We don't have our length, but we have our width. What do you think we're going to do? So this is our L for length. So what do you think we do now if we have the area? What could I do with these two numbers? Am I going to multiply them or am I going to do something else? Yeah, I'm going to do the inverse. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to divide. So if they give you the area, we're going to do 7 divided by a half. So you're going to do your area divided by that other dimension. Now, we haven't done fractions in a while. What do we have to do when we're dividing by a fraction? What? Keep, change, flip. Right, the reciprocal. Okay, so remember, we keep this, and if it's a whole number, I'm just going to put it over 1. So it's 7 over 1. I change my multiplication, or I change my division to a multiplication, and then I flip my second fraction. So instead of 1 over 2, it's going to be 2 over 1. Now look how nice that is. Both of my denominators are 1, so all I have to do is 7 times 2. So I would get 14. So when I come back up here, I know that my length is going to be 14 yards. And how could I check that to make sure? Yeah, we could go and plug it in. We could do 14 times a half, and that should give us our area of 7, which it would. So there's also a way that you can check it. So remember, if you have the area, you're just going to do the inverse. You're going to take your area, divide it by that other dimension. Awesome. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, and I also am going to attach another video that kind of has you just practice these kinds of problems. Okay, so let's do another one where it might be some fractions. They're going to be a little bit harder, but we can still do it. Okay, so this is going to be a little thin one here. So I'm going to do that. This is going to be in meters, and you guys, our units are going to be the same. So we don't have to do any converting here. Okay, so like for instance, this one is both in meters. Now you're going to have to find the perimeter, which is the distance around, and the area. So let's do perimeter first. So remember, rectangle opposite sides are congruent. So this is going to be 2, and this is going to be 10 4/5. Okay, now 2 and 2 is easy. I know we can do that one in our head, which is 4, but it's going to be this 10 4/5. So you can either add that or you could just do it times 2. I'm going to do it times 2. So I'm going to take my 10 4/5 and I'm going to times it by 2 because there's 2 sides. Okay, and what do I have to do if I have a mixed number? Yeah, I'm going to turn it into a proper. So I'm going to do my times plus. So 5 times 10 is 50, plus 4 is 54 fifths times, and I'm just going to leave this as 2 over 1. Okay, now unfortunately, this is going to kind of be a hard one. I cannot do any ungrouping on this one, can I? No. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is just kind of multiply 54 times 2, which is going to be 108. So it's going to be 108 fifths. Okay, now I know I'm not going to leave it as improper, so I'm just going to have to turn it back into a mixed number. Okay, and again, if we're not sure, we can just divide it. So I'm running out of room here. 108, really small. So 5 can go into 10 twice. Perfectly. Drop down. My 8. 5 can go into 8 one time. Sorry guys, I'm running out of room. I might have to put it up here. So I'm left with 3. So whatever I'm left with becomes my numerator. So I would have 21 and 3. And then because my divisor was a 5, it's going to stay a 5. So it'd be 21 and 3 fifths. And then I just have to add 4 to that. 2 plus 2 is 4. So if I add 4 wholes to that, get 25 and 3 fifths. So that would be my perimeter, and then it would just be in meters. Okay, so it's a little harder with fractions, but it's stuff that you guys know how to do. Okay, what if I wanted to find the area? So let's go back, and we only need 2 dimensions to find area. And we have them. We have our length and our width. So we're just going to do, oh my goodness, didn't we just do 10 and 4 fifths times 2, and I just erased all that work? We did that in our perimeter one. That's why I say don't erase your work. Good job, Mrs. Pritchard. So 10 and 4 fifths times 2. We just did that when we were trying to figure out perimeter. So who remembers what we got? Remember, we did our times plus. We got 54 fifths times 2 over 1. We couldn't cross simplify. We got our 108 over 5, and then we just turned it into an improper. And remember, it ended up being 21, or we turned it into a mix, and 3 fifths meters squared. Gosh, that one was kind of nice because we did a lot of the work in the perimeter one. So don't erase your work because sometimes your perimeter might help you find your area. Okay, so today that's all I want you to be practicing is perimeter and area of rectangles. So think about if it's a 1 dimension, you just need length, or if it's a 2 dimension, like area, your length and your width. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. You got this.